I know when I was like very in active use still, and in and out of active use and dependence, whatever, you know what I mean? I've reached the level of being benzodiazepine dependent, certainly multiple times throughout my journey with Xanax use, leading to frequent use, leading to frequent overuse, frequent abuse. And then eventually, that reached dependence. That went on for several years before I admitted to myself I had a problem. And gosh dang it, I tell you what, it definitely took, I don't know, at least 5 years of trying to quit to finally be where I'm at right now, to be 9 months clean off of them. And the thing that made it hardest for me to quit, I think, along the way, that no longer is an obstacle for me, is my own prescription. Once I, you know what I mean, once I stopped getting my own prescription filled, that just made everything so much easier. But in the active use thing, it's like, your own prescription, maybe, like in my case, it would last me maybe a fucking week. And then there's 3 weeks of needing to get it from other sources to keep the thing going, you know what I mean? Keep the addiction fed. But what was so hard about that, in many ways, it's like there's all kinds of variables of it. But for me, the main thing was like this: like I never, you know what I mean. There would be times maybe where I'd have to go 2 3 days, usually no more than a week, without until my next refill. Maybe if my dealer ran out, whatever the fuck it was. So the thing is like I'm always gonna fucking I'm going through withdrawal hard. You know what I mean? It takes more than a fucking couple weeks, more than a month to get out of withdrawal. So I'm like, not out of withdrawal yet. I'm gonna refill my bottle every fucking time, as soon as possible. And how many times did I end up getting it filled a few days early and, blah blah blah. Oh, because the weekend, when the weekend was there, that excuse was valid. Like if your refill day landed on Saturday or Sunday, then it's like, okay, now I can feel Friday, even though it's not blah blah blah. But anyways, if you're suffering from a similar addictive use cycle pattern somewhere in that process, man, and like you haven't cut yourself off from your prescription and you really want to quit, that's definitely, something that you freaking absolutely should do. My advice to anybody who's willing to maybe hear something like that, if you're just here to hear my story, hey, that's really cool too. And Critter Life. So at this point, at 9 months clean, um, I don't think about it daily anymore. That probably took at least 6 months to like all of a sudden where like maybe 2 or 3 days would pass and I would be like, holy shit, I haven't thought about a fucking line of Xanax today. This is pretty neat. Um, I'm not gonna lie, I still dream about it. Um, not all the time, but relatively often. The dreams are weird. A lot of times the dreams are like in those moments when you're out, but you can find crumbs on the floor and you're like dreaming about looking for crumbs and shit like that. Like, oh fuck, like that's not, it's weird. It's different kinds of things, but yeah, I dream about it quite a bit still. And as far as like having a like, ooh, I'd like to have some, like there's definitely no cravings anymore ever or anything like that. And like I could count like in the last probably 3 4 months, like I could count on one hand these like 5 times or less I've probably had that little lingering thought that's like, and usually it's in situations where my anxiety is a little peaked on up, like social situations or whatever, like, or like fun things, like, oh man, I'd like to have some Xannies right now. I'd like to be Xannied up. It's like, that's not even fucking, you know what I mean? I want to get fucked up on them. I don't want to have them to be a little more relaxed to be able to socialize better instead of my anxiety standing in the way of that, if you can relate to fucking social anxiety and blah blah blah. But like hardly ever do I have those kinds of thoughts where it's like, damn, that's a big zucchini. Hardly ever do I like really think about like wanting some, you know what I mean? Like I'd like to be standing up in this moment. That's, I really only can think of like one particular experience, and then, but I don't get out as much as I used to nearly, and I guess that maybe kind of is helping too or whatever. But it's definitely awesome to be at a place where I don't have cravings anymore, where I don't, where I can now like recognize out on the other side, beating this addiction for good. That's what I've done here. It's still early in that process. Addiction is a never ending thing, that battle within. But in this case, you know what I mean? It's the furthest I've made. I've definitely never made it 9 months, because sometimes I think maybe I've made it a year before. No chance, dude. Like, you would remember making it a year if you made it a year. That's a huge landmark. And, I just look forward to the days when it's like I can't remember the exact number of years I haven't done it. And it's pretty cool that, still in the first year of achieving that, keep in mind, I did them for like a decade and a half at least, probably. And it reaching the addiction has been over 10 years at least. So, I maybe did them at times over the course of 3 or 4 years before I became addicted to them. And so that's something you should be warned about too if you're watching this video, because you can fucking relate. Maybe you're in your early 20s, late teens, early 20s, like when I first started using them, late teens, early 20s. Why did I get introduced to them? To fucking come down. Ecstasy, cocaine, whatever it was. A come down tool worked well. And then learned more about it, realized for anxiety, maybe I used it to not be nervous for wrestling matches I shouldn't be fucking nervous for. I don't know. Pretty much that's kind of like what it was like for me in the beginning. And then one thing that happened for me after getting introduced to snorting them, and mainly only snorting them for my use, then from there on a lot of the times, and in my trials and tribulations trying to quit, there was times where I was proud to be only popping them but not snorting them, but then it would turn into eating them like Skittles, and I'd be buying even more of them, and that's arguably worse. I don't know, they're both fucking terrible. But the thing that really got me and allowed myself to build a huge tolerance to it was realizing that doing it through a line, it makes that fucking makes you it hits you quicker. The anxiety relief kind of bullshit or whatever is immediate. And at the time, I was smoking weed before I do pretty much anything. Maybe, I don't know. So I'm like doing that, and then like the paranoia kicks in. You know what I mean? Like, so I realized line of Xanax after smoking before going out about whatever it was going to be, just made it like that's where it got really really allowed to escalate for me. And that was like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I was about 23 or so when I started doing that. So the mid 30s now. I'm somewhere north of exactly 35, maybe a little less than 36 total. I'm not quite sure. But so you know what I mean? I freaking I wasted from 19 till 35 pretty much, not wasted all of it, but like from 25 till 35, it's like I was still 34 when I finally overcame like dependence and just abusing them. And it took a long time to freaking get there. And looking back, I just do honestly have a lot of regrets, and I'm proud to be over that addiction now. But it did lead to a lot of like just regretful moments and things I think about. And yeah, so thanks for viewing the video, and I'm proud to be at 9 months. I'll make another checkup video when I hit the year mark, maybe somewhere in between, I don't know. But I became a content creator to talk about addiction and overcoming it. And at the time, I was still like, I was out of denial of my Xanax problem, but I had him beat when I first started doing it. And I was like I was like trying to quit drinking at the time. And someone said I should make a YouTube channel. And that's kind of what I made it about. Because at the time I wasn't on Xanax. Then I got on them again. And that was the start of this channel. So it's actually kind of funny if you watch some of my videos from like 2.5 years ago. There's times where I fucking might have been lying a little bit, and then I had to admit in a video that I had been lying because I was either drinking or doing Xanax or both. And gosh dang it, that's part of this channel. I'm just leaving the whole journey up. That's why I thought, I'm in a little lapse of time of what am I going to do with the Critter Life main direction next, and I still don't know. It's up for debate. I might go back to live streaming, trade and stuff. I've just been basically, like, while I work, I'm still setting limits in the T triple Q and the S triple Q, basically playing that both directions, and it's kind of working all right so far. And God's Unchained ran the last couple weekends, so that's pretty neat. If you're my trading fam and you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I'll probably start live streaming at least a little bit for the Critter Crew. But other than that, I'm not sure what the general direction is next. But we're about to do some pulling of weeds in the garden for better, what do you call it? I don't know. For better, insert more sounding smart stuff later, like for the ground, for it, fertilization, for like the next year growing stuff, and blah blah blah. And yeah, the main thing was gardening videos for a while now. I think tomorrow I'm gonna hit that river down there and go up to the good sand hunting sandbar for rock hunting, try to find some agates and spend a good number of hours there, make a fire, make some food on the fire, and make a little day out of it. Check through them woods and get to her. So I think I might make a video out of both the two things I mentioned, and go from there with life, go from there with Critter Life.